It all began with the Stevens family. Back in the early 1900s, a man named William Stevens bought a piece of land on a hill just outside town. He built his dream home there, a large, creaky structure that overlooked the entire valley. The family moved in and everything seemed perfect. But soon, things began to change. At night, the house would groan as if it were alive, and strange noises would echo through the halls. The Stevens family thought it was just the house settling, but deep down, they knew something wasn't right. One night, as William Stevens was reading in his study, he heard the distinct sound of footsteps on the staircase. When he looked up, no one was there. The footsteps continued, louder now, and it sounded as though they were heading toward the study. William rushed to the door, but when he opened it, the hallway was empty. Thinking it was just his imagination, he returned to his book. But the unsettling feeling never left him. As the days passed, the Stevens family started to experience more disturbing events. Windows would slam shut on their own, and objects would be found in places they didn't remember leaving them. The most terrifying event happened one night when the youngest daughter, Emily, woke up screaming. She claimed she saw a figure standing at the foot of her bed, staring at her with hollow, empty eyes. Her parents dismissed it as a bad dream, but Emily was never the same. She became withdrawn, her once bright eyes now dark and fearful. The Stevens family eventually moved away, unable to bear the constant terror that gripped them. The house sat empty for years until it was bought by another family, a young couple with a newborn child. The newcomers, unaware of the house's dark history, were hopeful for a fresh start. But it wasn't long before they began to experience the same eerie phenomena. At night, the baby would cry for no reason, staring at empty corners of the room as if something unseen was standing there. The parents, unable to explain the unexplainable, decided to leave after only a few months. The house on the hill stood vacant for many years after that, growing more and more dilapidated as time wore on. Despite its decaying state, no one dared to live there. It became a place of whispered rumors and ghost stories. Some said the house was haunted by the spirit of Emily Stevens, who never left after her terrifying encounter. Others believed the house itself was cursed, built on land where something unspeakable had once occurred. One cold autumn evening, a group of curious teenagers decided to test the rumors. Armed with flashlights and their phones to record whatever they might find, they made their way up the hill. The house loomed before them, its windows dark and empty like hollow eyes staring into the night. They dared each other to enter, and one by one they stepped inside. The air was thick with dust, and the floor creaked beneath their feet as they explored the abandoned rooms. At first everything seemed normal, but as they ventured deeper into the house, they began to hear the faint sound of footsteps, just like the Stevens family had years before. They turned around, but no one was there. Suddenly, one of the teens, Sarah, screamed. She was standing at the top of the stairs, pointing down the hallway. "Look!" she whispered, her voice shaking. At the end of the hall, they saw a figure. A shadowy outline of a woman standing motionless, her eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. The teens froze in terror, and the figure slowly began to move toward them. Panicked, they rushed for the front door, but it slammed shut before they could reach it. They tried to break a window to escape, but the house seemed to fight them at every turn. As they looked back toward the hallway, the figure was closer now, its eyes burning with an eerie light. The next morning, the town woke to the news that the teens had disappeared without a trace. The authorities searched the house and the surrounding area, but there was no sign of them. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. Some believe that the house still holds the spirits of those who dared to enter, trapped forever in its dark, cursed walls. No one has gone back since that night, and the house remains abandoned, waiting for the next curious soul to test its haunted boundaries. As for the town, it continues to grow, but the story of the house on the hill lives on. The locals still whisper about it, and some say that on quiet nights, if you listen closely, you can hear the faint sound of footsteps on the staircase, echoing through the empty halls of a house that will never let go of its haunted past.